Change. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when the noise gets too loud, the pressure gets too heavy, and the dream that once burned bright begins to flicker in the wind. There comes a moment when you stand at the intersection of fear and faith, habit and change, comfort and destiny, and life asks you a question so simple that it shakes the soul. What will you decide? Not tomorrow, not someday. Not when the timing feels perfect, not when everybody claps, not when the path is clear and the sky is blue and every problem has politely stepped aside. No, right now, today, in this moment, because the truth is this. You are one decision away from a different life, one decision away from a stronger mind, one decision away from a deeper peace, one decision away from a new standard, one decision away from a future that your old self could barely imagine. And I want you to hear me clearly tonight. The power you are looking for is not sitting in somebody else's pocket. It is not trapped in somebody else's opinion. It is not hidden in somebody else's approval. It is not waiting in somebody else's promise. The power is already in you. It has been there the entire time, quiet but present, sleeping but alive, waiting for the moment you decide to wake it up. Too many people live as if life is controlled by luck, by timing, by family background, by past mistakes, by the economy, by other people's moods, by social media, by the opinions of strangers who do not even know their name. But listen to me, your life does not rise and fall on the applause of the crowd. Your life rises and falls on the decisions you make when nobody is clapping. The most important decisions are rarely loud. They happen in private. They happen in the silence of your room, in the stillness of your heart, in the middle of your struggle, when nobody sees the battle except you, and that is where success begins. Success does not begin when people finally notice you. Success begins when you finally notice yourself. Success does not begin when the world tells you that you matter. Success begins when you look in the mirror and say, I matter enough to do something with my life. Success does not begin when your circumstances become easy. Success begins when you become disciplined enough to move through difficult circumstances without losing your character. The world has trained many people to believe that worth comes from outside. If people praise you, you feel valuable. If people ignore you, you feel small. If people choose you, you feel confident. If people reject you, you collapse. But that kind of life is like building a house on sand. One wave comes and the whole structure shakes. One comment comes and the whole identity bends. One disappointment comes and the whole spirit crumbles. That is no way to live. A human being was never meant to be emotionally rented out to public opinion. A human being was never meant to let the verdict of strangers define the value of their soul. There is a sacred dignity in knowing who you are when no one is there to applaud it. There is a quiet power in being able to walk into a room with your head up, not because you think you are better than everybody else, but because you know you are not less than anybody else. That is self-respect. And self-respect is not arrogance. Self-respect is not pride. Self-respect is not looking down on people. Self-respect is simply refusing to look down on yourself. Some people think confidence is something you are born with. They look at a person who speaks clearly, stands tall, and moves with certainty, and they say that person was just born that way. No, confidence is not a birthright. Confidence is a habit. Confidence is built. Confidence is practiced. Confidence is earned in the small private choices that no one else notices. Confidence is built when you keep a promise to yourself. Confidence is built when you do what you said you would do. Confidence is built when you rise after failure and say, I am still here and I am still growing. Let me tell you something powerful. Confidence does not come from never falling. Confidence comes from knowing you can stand back up. The person who succeeds is not always the smartest, not always the strongest, not always the loudest. The person who succeeds is often the one who learns how to decide. To decide what they will tolerate, to decide what they will build, to decide what they will no longer accept, to decide what kind of life they are willing to create, because your decisions are sculpting your destiny every single day. Every small decision matters. The decision to get up when you want to stay down. The decision to speak kindly to yourself instead of feeding your own insecurity. The decision to stay focused when distractions are calling your name. The decision to say no to instant pleasure in order to say yes to long-term peace. The decision to be patient with your growth instead of panicking over your speed. The decision to stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. That is where success lives, not in one giant magical moment, but in repeated, disciplined, courageous decisions. And make no mistake about it, discipline is not punishment. Discipline is not the enemy of joy. Discipline is the guardian of freedom. Discipline says, I will do what is right, even when I do not feel like it. Discipline says, I will prepare today for the opportunities I want tomorrow. Discipline says, I will not let my feelings vote on my future every single morning. Feelings are important, yes. Emotions are real, yes. But feelings are terrible masters. Feelings are like weather. They change. Some days the sky is clear. Some days it rains. Some days storms roll in without warning. If you build your life only on how you feel, then your life will be as unstable as the weather. But if you build your life on purpose, on principle, on discipline, on faith, on values, then the storm may come, but it will not own you. There is a difference between reacting and leading. The reactive person lives at the mercy of every mood, every insult, every setback, every delay. But the leader inside you, the mature self, the strong self, the focused self says, I will not let my environment determine my direction. I will choose my response. That is emotional independence. And emotional independence is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. It means you stop begging the world to make you feel okay. It means you stop outsourcing your peace to people who cannot guarantee it. It means you stop turning every rejection into a verdict on your value. It means you stop using the approval of others as the fuel for your identity. Emotional independence says, I can love people without losing myself. I can listen to feedback without handing over my soul. I can be open-hearted without being fragile. I can be humble without being broken. That kind of maturity changes everything, because when you are no longer desperate for validation, you become dangerous in the best possible way. You become free enough to think clearly, free enough to work hard, free enough to create change, free enough to take risks, free enough to become the person you were designed to be. And let me tell you, the world does not know what to do with a person who is free. The world knows how to manipulate insecurity. The world knows how to sell fear. The world knows how to keep people stuck by making them believe they need permission to grow. But when a person finally says, I do not need everybody to understand me, and I do not need everybody to approve of me, that person steps out of the prison others built and into the spacious field of possibility. You do not need the whole crowd to believe in you. You need enough belief in yourself to begin. You do not need every critic to be silent. You need your own mind to be louder than their doubt. You do not need a perfect record. You need a willing heart. You do not need a flawless past. You need a decision for a better future. Now, let us talk about purpose. Purpose is what makes discipline meaningful. Purpose is what turns effort into a calling. Purpose is what carries you through the days when motivation is nowhere to be found, because motivation is a visitor. Purpose is a resident. Motivation comes and goes, but purpose stays. Motivation may wake you up one morning and say, come on, let us do something great. But purpose is the voice that stays with you after the excitement fades and says, keep going, keep building, keep becoming. A person without purpose is like a ship without a compass. The engine may be strong, the sails may be large, the crew may be eager, but without direction, even great energy becomes wasted motion. Many people are busy, but busy is not the same as purposeful. Busy can exhaust you. Purpose can empower you. Busy can scatter you. Purpose can focus you. Busy can make you feel important for the day. Purpose can make your life matter for a lifetime. So ask yourself, what am I becoming? Not what am I pretending to be. Not what am I posting to be. Not what am I performing to be. What am I actually becoming in the quiet Change hidden moments of my life, because life is always asking. Every habit is writing. Every choice is recording. Every repeated action is rehearsing the future. You may not see it today, but your future is being assembled one decision at a time. And here is the good news. If the wrong decisions helped create the current chapter, then the right decisions can create the next chapter. You are not trapped by your yesterday. You are not sentenced by your mistakes. You are not disqualified by your slow seasons. You are not finished because you have been delayed. You are not behind because your journey has looked different from other people's. Some of the greatest stories ever lived did not begin with ease. They began with resistance. They began with a setback. They began with a closed door. They began with tears, confusion, and a long night of wondering if change was possible. But then came a decision. I will not stay here. I will not remain small. I will not surrender to fear. I will learn. I will grow. I will try again. And that decision became a turning point. You see, the turning point is rarely a thunderbolt from heaven. More often it is a quiet internal sentence. Enough. Now no more. I am ready. I will begin. That is the moment everything starts moving. There are people listening right now who have been waiting for a sign, waiting for a feeling, waiting for a better season, waiting for a better salary, waiting for support, waiting for perfect clarity, waiting for someone to rescue them from the life they do not want. But maybe the sign is not coming from outside. Maybe the sign is this very moment. Maybe the sign is the ache in your spirit that keeps telling you that you were made for more. Maybe the sign is the restlessness you feel when you know you have outgrown your excuses. Maybe the sign is the holy discomfort of a soul that has had enough of settling. Sometimes pain is not a punishment. Sometimes pain is a wake-up call. Sometimes frustration is not the end of your strength. Sometimes frustration is the beginning of your breakthrough. Because frustration tells you that what used to satisfy you no longer fits who you are becoming. Do not waste your discomfort. Listen to it. Let it speak. Let it point you. Let it make you honest, because honesty is where growth begins. It takes honesty to admit, I have been procrastinating. It takes honesty to say, I have been seeking approval. It takes honesty to confess, I have allowed fear to make my decisions. It takes honesty to recognize, I have let my wounds speak louder than my wisdom. It takes honesty to stand before your own life and say, this must change. And the beautiful thing about honesty is that it does not shame you. It sets you free. The truth is not your enemy. The truth is your beginning. Once you tell yourself the truth, you can finally stop pretending. And once you stop pretending, it means you can start improving. Once you start improving, you can start building. Once you start building, you can start becoming. And once you start becoming, you can start living the life that was waiting for you all along. I want to speak especially to the person who has been carrying invisible wounds, the person who smiles in public and wrestles in private, the person who looks strong to everybody else but feels tired deep inside, the person who has been told, directly or indirectly, that they are too much or not enough, the person who has learned to shrink just to make others comfortable, the person who has been chasing applause like oxygen. Listen to me carefully. It means you do not have to beg for a place at the table of your own life. You were not born to live apologetically. You were not born to make yourself smaller so others can feel taller. You were not born to trade your peace for acceptance. It means you were not born to live in a constant state of emotional hunger. You were born to stand. You were born to grow. You were born to contribute. You were born to carry dignity. You were born to have a voice. It means you were born to walk in purpose with your head lifted high. That does not mean life becomes easy. No, easy is not the promise. But meaningful, yes. Strong, worth it? Absolutely. The climb is real, but so is the summit. The fight is real, but so is the victory. The tears are real, but so is the healing. The uncertainty is real, but so is the direction that comes when you keep moving. And here is one of the most important lessons in life. You will never grow beyond the decisions you repeatedly avoid. If you keep avoiding the hard conversation, the relationship stays broken. If you keep avoiding the work, the dream stays distant. If you keep avoiding responsibility, it means the life stays immature. If you keep avoiding discipline, the future stays expensive. If you keep avoiding truth, peace stays delayed. Some people pray for change but refuse decision. They want a new life without a new standard. They want a better future without a better routine. They want success, but they still make the same choices that created frustration in the first place. And life in its honesty says back, show me your decisions, and I will show you your direction. That is why one decision matters so much, because one decision can interrupt a cycle. One decision can break a pattern. One decision can stop the bleeding. One decision can redirect your energy. One decision can turn survival into strategy. One decision can transform wishful thinking into actual progress. You may not be able to change everything today, but you can change something today. And when you change the right something, the rest begins to shift. Challenge the way you speak to yourself. Challenge the way you begin your mornings. Challenge the way you respond to setbacks. Challenge the way you treat your body, your time, your opportunities, your relationships, your responsibilities. Change the standard, because the standard you tolerate becomes the life you live. Let me say that again, because it matters. The standard you tolerate becomes the life you live. If you tolerate laziness, you inherit regret. If you tolerate excuses, you inherit stagnation. If you tolerate disrespect, you inherit pain. If you tolerate distraction, you inherit unfinished dreams. If you tolerate self-neglect, you inherit exhaustion. But if you tolerate discipline, you inherit strength. If you tolerate learning, you inherit wisdom. If you tolerate patience, you inherit depth. If you tolerate effort, you inherit growth. If you tolerate courage, it means you inherit a future worth celebrating. So choose your standards wisely. Do not aim to impress people who cannot improve you. Do not shape your identity around people who do not know your journey. Do not measure your life by temporary applause. Do not confuse popularity with purpose. Do not confuse noise with value. A tree does not grow by asking the forest whether it deserves to reach the sunlight. A tree simply grows. It sends roots down, it reaches upward, it withstands storms, it bears fruit in season. It stands because it is built to stand. You too must grow like that. Root yourself in truth. Rise toward the light. Endure the storms. Bear the fruit of your labor. Stand because you were made to stand. And when doubt speaks, answer it with action. When fear speaks, answer it with discipline. When failure speaks, answer it with persistence. When shame speaks, answer it with grace. When the past speaks, answer it with growth. When the crowd speaks, answer it with conviction. You do not need to win every argument. You need to win your life. You do not need to be understood by everyone. It means you need to understand your calling. You do not need to be the loudest person in the room. You need to be the clearest. You do not need to prove your worth to people who are already committed to undervaluing you. You need to live in a way that honors the truth of who you are and who are you. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You are not the label somebody placed on you in a moment of ignorance. You are not the worst thing you have done. You are not the fear you feel. You are not the limitation you inherited. You are not the insecurity you carry. You are a living possibility. You are a work in progress with a future still unfolding. You are a person with the ability to change, to choose, to rise, to rebuild, to begin again. There is a special kind of courage in beginning again. Beginning again after disappointment. Beginning again after rejection. Beginning again after a dream pauses. Beginning again after you thought you were further ahead. Beginning again after you have been told no. Beginning again after you have failed publicly. Beginning again after you have failed privately. Beginning again after you have outgrown your old self. That is not weakness. That is greatness in motion, because the greatest people are not the ones who never fall. The greatest people are the ones who refuse to stay down. They get up. They learn, they adjust, they keep going. They become wiser, stronger, cleaner, calmer, and more determined than before. And let me tell you something about growth. Growth is often invisible at first. Roots grow before branches. Foundations go deep before towers go high. A seed does not look impressive underground, but that hidden work is what makes the visible harvest possible. Do not despise the hidden season. Do not curse the quiet season. Do not think that because the world cannot yet see your progress, there is no progress happening. There is progress in every brave choice. There is progress in every page you read. There is progress in every temptation you refuse. There is progress in every hard conversation you have. There is progress in every disciplined morning. There is progress in every prayer, every journal entry, every rep, every study session, every focused hour, every honest apology. Every small act of consistency. Small does not mean insignificant. Small choices become strong character. Strong character becomes steady habits. Steady habits become visible results. Visible results become a changed life. That is how it works. Not all at once, but one faithful decision at a time. Some of you have been waiting to feel ready, but readiness is often the result of action, not the requirement for it. You do not become confident by waiting. You become confident by doing the thing while your hands are trembling and your heart is racing and your mind is full of questions. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what is right while fear is still talking. That means you can be nervous and still move. You can be uncertain and still begin. You can be wounded and still heal. You can be tired and still continue. You can be learning and still lead. You can be imperfect and still progress. Do not let the myth of perfection rob you of the reality of development. Perfection says wait until you are flawless. Growth says start where you are and improve as you go. Perfection says do not begin until you know everything. Growth says learn by doing. Perfection says protect your image. Growth says build your substance. And substance is what lasts. Looks fade. Attention fades. Height fades. But substance endures. Substance is character. Substance is consistency. Substance is humility. Substance is courage. Substance is discipline. Substance is a mind that refuses to quit. Substance is a heart that knows how to stand in the rain without losing the dream. That is what the world needs from you. Not performance. Substance, not excuses. Substance, not a perfect story. Substance, not borrowed confidence. Substance, not temporary emotion. Substance. And substance begins when you make the decision to respect your life enough to build it properly, respect your mornings, respect your thoughts, respect your body, respect your talent, respect your boundaries, respect your time. Respect your calling, respect your future, because the way you treat yourself teaches the world how to treat you, and more importantly, it teaches your own soul what is acceptable. If you keep betraying your own standards, it means you will slowly lose trust in yourself. If you keep ignoring your own goals, you will quietly weaken your identity. If you keep promising and not delivering, your confidence will fracture. But if you keep showing up, means if you keep honoring your word, if you keep doing the small right things, then something powerful happens. Your self-respect rises. Your inner voice strengthens. Your confidence begins to stabilize. You start trusting yourself again. And a person who trusts themselves can walk through life with steady authority, not loud authority. Steady authority, the kind that says, I know who I am becoming. The kind that says, I know what I am here to do. The kind that says, I may not have arrived, but I am not wandering anymore. That is where peace comes from. Not from having every answer, but from knowing your direction. Not from controlling every outcome, but from controlling your response. Not from impressing everyone, but from honoring your path. Not from being liked by all, but from being aligned with truth. There is freedom in alignment. When your actions match your values, you feel cleaner inside. When your habits match your hopes, you feel more alive. When your decisions match your purpose, you feel less divided. When your mind stops arguing with your conscience, you feel peace. And peace is powerful. Peace is not passive. Peace is not weakness. Peace is power under control. Peace is a person who no longer needs the whole world to be quiet in order to think clearly. Peace is a person who has stopped letting the chaos outside become the chaos inside. Peace is a person who can stand in a storm without becoming the storm. That is a life worth building. So today, I am asking you to decide. Decide to stop shrinking. Decide to stop begging. Decide to delaying. Decide to stop apologizing for wanting more from your life. Decide to stop letting fear dress itself up as wisdom. Decide to stop calling your comfort peace when it is really just confinement. Decide to stop living on approval from people who cannot carry your destiny. Decide to stop negotiating with the very habits that are stealing your future. Decide to stand. Decide to build. Decide to grow. Decide to become. Change. Because you are one decision away from a new chapter, one decision away from a cleaner conscience, one decision away from stronger discipline, one decision away from deeper confidence, one decision away from purpose with direction. Change. One decision away from self-respect, one decision away from freedom. And maybe that decision does not feel dramatic. Maybe it is simple. Maybe it is quiet. Maybe it starts with a morning routine. Maybe it starts with one hard conversation. Change. Maybe it starts with deleting the distraction. Maybe it starts with saying no. Maybe it starts with getting up early. Maybe it starts with asking for help. Maybe it starts with forgiving yourself. Maybe it starts with writing the first page. Change. Maybe it starts with going back to school. Maybe it starts with starting that business. Maybe it starts with joining that program. Maybe it starts with ending that cycle. Maybe it starts with standing up for yourself. Change. Maybe it starts with finally telling the truth. Whatever it is, make it. Make the decision, because decisions made in courage create lives that fear could never build. And I want to leave you with this. Change. Your life is listening to your choices more than it is listening to your dreams. Dreams are beautiful, but decisions are the language of transformation. Dreams inspire you, but decisions shape you. Dreams point toward the mountain, but decisions begin the climb. Dreams open the imagination, but decisions open the door. So do not just dream about a better life. Decide into one. Do not just admire strength. Decide to become strong. Do not just talk about growth. Decide to grow. Do not just hope for confidence. Decide to practice confidence. Do not just wish for peace. Decide to protect your peace. Do not just want purpose. Decide to live on purpose. Do not just want respect. Change. Decide to live in a way that earns it from yourself first. And when the day comes that the old version of you tries to pull you backward, remember this: you are not who you used to be. You are becoming someone greater. You are not what happened to you. You are what you decide to do next. You are not the echo of your fear. You are the voice of your future. So stand up inside your own life. Stand up in your mind. Stand up in your habits. Stand up in your values. Stand up in your work. Stand up in your relationships. Stand up in your dreams. Stand up in your purpose. Stand up in your confidence. Stand up in your self-respect. And when you stand, do not stand for applause. Stand for alignment. Stand for truth. Stand for growth. Stand for the person you are becoming, because the truth is simple and powerful and life-changing. You are one decision away from success, one decision away from healing, one decision away from momentum, one decision away from a stronger identity, one decision away from a brighter tomorrow. And that decision is yours, not someday, not after permission, not after perfection now. So choose boldly, choose wisely, choose discipline, choose purpose, choose peace, choose self-respect, choose growth, choose courage, choose yourself. And then, with your head high and your heart steady, take the next step, and the next and the next, until the life you once only imagined becomes the life you are finally living. Ladies and gentlemen, the future is not waiting for your excuses. The future is waiting for your decision. Make it now. Rise now. Begin now. And let this be the moment when everything changes.